COVID-19, and looking to provide some recommendations on how we can be engaging with corporate and government supply chains, and pivoting our own businesses and our network of women-owned businesses to respond to the urgent needs of right now. So Silvia, perhaps I can send things over to you to provide a bit more context around what you're working on with WEWebinar Canada at the moment, and diving into today's conversation.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you for having me, and good afternoon, everybody. So we live in unprecedented times, right? Like everybody heard from media, you know, how bad things are out of our houses. So we, most of us, we only hear about it. We are not directly impacted. We are not directly in it. We are not in the hospitals, you know, providing the care. So I just want to say how appreciative I am of for the first responders, you know, like to really take care of people and to really take care of all of us so that we are all protected. And that being said, I do not want to talk about COVID-19 today. I do want to talk to businesses about the businesses, because with the crisis out there, it is very important that we don't get stuck with the mindset that, you know, like, oh my goodness, we freeze because like of everything going on around us. But, you know, we need freedom to think creatively as business owners and to really come up with new creative ideas, new solutions, you know, how we can actually tackle it and still succeed and thrive. So yesterday, I actually published an article on WEWebinar Canada website as well as on LinkedIn. So I shared the exact same article on LinkedIn. And I was talking about the variety of businesses that are out there right now. So at WEWebinar Canada, we work with women-owned businesses, and our businesses are at different stages. They are in different industries, and different industries are reacting or impacted differently by COVID-19. So we do have businesses that are in mandatory shutdown. So these are the businesses, especially around travel and events. You know, these businesses cannot do what they normally do, so they need to shut down. A lot of them let their employees go, and they are in a place where, you know, nothing is as normal. So then the next category of the businesses are businesses that are actually thriving. Believe it or not, there are businesses that are doing really well. And these businesses are actually over capacity. Like we constantly hear from trucking companies looking for drivers. We are looking from IT companies looking for more people. We are hearing about, you know, maintenance companies, manufacturing companies. Like these companies are over capacity, and they are really struggling to hire more people to really cope with the scale of, you know, the products that are required and that are needed. So that is the second category. And then the third category is, I would say, businesses that need to get creative. You know, you can go either one way or the other. You can either get discouraged by what's happening and, you know, be like, oh, there's nothing for me. Let me just sit down, sit back and just survive. Or you can get creative and you can still get business. So that is the third category, and it really depends on you and what hat you put on your head, you know, like what approach you take in your business. You can either succeed or you can almost dissolve your business. So this is I would say, the status quo of businesses around us in today's time and age. That being said, I will dive deeper in a bit, but let me just say, start with, we recently surveyed our WEWe community, and our WEWe community, anywhere between startups to multi-million-dollar companies. So this is not reflective of your community, Kayla, like startup community, but it will be like our community, you know, like even larger companies. So what we found out is that about a quarter of our businesses are directly impacted. So business owner or somebody on their team were infected with COVID-19. Over 90% of businesses were impacted by the crisis. So that tells me that there are a lot of businesses out there who are either struggling, or they need to get creative, or they need suggestions, ideas, or they need the resources to really cope with the reality. So we even asked them how they are impacted, and this is what we got back. Over 80% of businesses, which is, I think the number is too high, is the cash flow. So businesses, over 80% of businesses really struggle with the cash flow, how to pay their employees, how to stay afloat, with all the procurement being stopped or paused. Over 75% are impacted in operations or logistics. So these are the businesses who maybe need to shift the gears. They can no longer do business in person. They have to shift to online space. Over 70% of our business owners, of our women-owned businesses, are impacted emotionally. So handling, like business and family, having kids at home, having to take care of the house, not being able to do your hair, to get your nails done, and not having anybody to help you cleaning the house, cooking the dinners, it's almost like immediately overnight we went from being capable and taking care of everything and managing our homes and managing the businesses, and we went to doing everything for everybody, and now we are overwhelmed and we are overpowered, and we don't know how long it will take. So we don't know how much longer we can survive this way. So there's a lot we need to learn when it comes to productivity, setting priorities, etc. More than 50% had a staff impact. So this means they either had to lay people off or because of social distancing, they have to have less employees in their workplaces, in their manufacturing facilities, or they are working from home and there's miscommunication. They are really adjusting to the new scenario. Some companies are doing well, and they are struggling to find employees. They need new people to join their teams, and they don't know how to find them. They cannot do interviews. They are struggling to break through the noise out there on social media to really bring people to their businesses. So, for example, we heard from one of the sewing companies that we have, and they are looking for people who can sew so that they can provide the masks. And they can't find those people because everybody's talking about COVID. How do you send your messaging so that it sticks and the right people hear it and see it? So what I find the worst, though, is that about quarter businesses do not have contingency plan in place. They have absolutely no idea how they are going to get through it. They have no idea how long they are going to survive. They have no idea how much longer they can stay afloat. They have no savings. They have no tools and no resources to move forward. They are just going and winging it, right? And hoping this will pass fast. So I want to say, as I'm watching the situation and observing what's going on, I don't think this is going to pass quickly. I wish it did, but here in Toronto, we are shut down till the end of June. I know we are already talking about potentially August. So it is not a quick fix scenario. It is not a quick game. We are in it for a long term, and you need to start looking at it as it is going to be our new reality for at least next couple months. So I encourage anybody who is on this call to actually start taking it seriously and start looking at how can I actually shift my business? What are the next steps that I need to take in order to survive maybe till the end of August or maybe even till the end of this year? So what are some of the things that I need to put in place in my business in order to stay afloat? So some of the biggest challenges that businesses are facing is definitely decrease in sales, cash flow, staffing, communication, productivity, etc. So this brings me to the point where every single business needs to take time, to reevaluate where are we at, how much longer can we get going the way we are going, what do we need to change, what do we need to shift, and what type of support do I need to have in place. So I don't think this is the time for small businesses to just stop spending, stop buying, stop doing anything. I think for a lot of businesses, this is actually a time to start investing in themselves. If you can't do anything else, read a book, read a blog, learn a new skill. YouTube is full of videos. So training and development do not have to be expensive. They do not have to be difficult. Decide today what do you want to be after this COVID-19 is over, and start taking steps to become that type of entrepreneur, to become that type of business owner. So instead of being a victim, start taking decisive action, start being intentional about your time, about your resources, about your opportunities. And I believe this applies to anybody, no matter where you are at right now. So reach out to somebody. If you are stuck, looking for staff, reach out to people. Hey, do you know somebody who can help me? There are actually staffing companies who can help you. They've been doing it for years, like hiring people online, actually utilizing online technologies. If you feel stuck, you need a coach, reach out to online communities, ask who are the best coaches that you would recommend, and find somebody who can help you and get unstuck. If you need IT support, ask around, who do you know who can help me get the proper IT set up in my office, like virtually, who can help me set up my computer without coming to my office. So there are actually people who are smart and they can help you, and you don't need to be stuck. So that's the message number one I really want to leave with the audience today. Like, you do not need to be stuck. Just ask the right questions, take the right steps, and move forward.
Can I ask Silvia, so if somebody is sort of assessing which step to take first, if you could sort of point to one specific resource that should be everyone's first step, if they're sort of in this analysis paralysis, there's so much information, it's changing every day, what would be that first step that our network could tap into?
Yeah. So for me, the reason why I wrote that blog, if you are on LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn, follow me, and find that article that I wrote yesterday, or you can go also to bbcanada.ca website, and the article is right there. So define where you are at, which bracket, which category you are at. Are you in mandatory shutdown? Are you in instant scale up? Do you need to scale up your production? Do you need to scale up your business? Or are you a business that needs to get creative? And depending on where you are at, your action will need to be different, right? Because if you are in mandatory shutdown, just nothing you can do. You can't go and open your restaurant. You can't go and start events tomorrow, right? Like, you can't do that. But what you can do, you can go back into your office and you can start evaluating your business. You can start looking at, some new innovative approaches and start putting things in place now while you have time. Basically, you can do now what you don't normally have time to do. In order to do that, you actually need to tap into government resources, government funding, because without having income coming in, you cannot survive, you can't stay afloat. And this is where, you really need to go and you need to figure out which of the government resources do I need right now. So I'll get to government funding and government resources in a minute, but that would be the business number one, right? The mandatory shutdown. Then if you are in instant scale up, like, you don't have time to evaluate your business and figure out, which way to go. This is your time to get busy, to really get into production, to find the right staff, to connect with people who can bring you the right people, to really get busy and get the business going, to get into and scale up your production super quickly. So the resources that you need is you need to get connected to the right people. You need to get connected to the right government programs that are buying your product or service. You need to get connected to the right corporations who need your product or service, right? So there are corporations like Ford and GM who are working with other tier one suppliers. They are building ventilators. They are suing companies, like suing the masks and protective gear. Though they need logistics, they need to ship products. They are still operating. So how do you provide and how can you connect with them? How do you find them? Reach out to government sources, right? So again, I will be mentioning resources from government in a minute, but let me first tackle the third category. So if you need to get creative, I feel like the first thing people need to do is what they are doing right now. So be on calls like this, right? Get connected to the organizations like Startup Canada, right? Organizations that provide information and resources to the businesses so that businesses get ideas, they get they start working, they get information. How do I set up my business, to provide information online? How do I set up my IT background? How do I promote my business to the corporation or to the government? So these type of information and these types of resources are available through the associations, through the organizations like Startup Canada, WEWebinar Canada, Chambers of Commerce, etc. Like this is why we are here for. We are non-profit organizations. We are not in it to make money. We are in it to serve our communities, right? So this would be the first step. And I think people on this call know it. Like they are in your community, they are in your space, and they are getting connected to the right sources and information. Does it answer your question? Okay, so now before I go to government and corporations and what they are doing and how you can get connected, I would really like to pause, and I would like to talk a little bit about WEWebinar Canada. So why am I here, talking to Kayla and all of you about corporations, governments, and women-owned businesses, is because this is what we do. At WEWebinar Canada, we actually certify Canadian women-owned businesses. So businesses must be majority women-owned, managed, and controlled. We review all their paperwork, financials, all of that to prove that those businesses are women-owned. Once you pass through the certification, you will get a stamp as a WEB or Women Business Enterprise. And that enables you to access corporate supply chains, government supply chains, training and resources, and a database at WEWebinar Canada. So as Kayla mentioned, we are funded by the corporations. So we are not self-funded. We didn't start it ourselves. We are not funded by women entrepreneurs either. So we are funded by the corporations who want to engage more women-owned businesses in their supply chain. So the corporations got together, and in order to not have to do certification themselves, they set up WEWebinar Canada to do certification for them. So we only work with Canadian landscape. We only work with Canadian women-owned businesses. And what we do for you, we teach you how the supply chains work. We invite you to the events that are usually closed-door events where you are able to meet buyers directly. We almost give you a stamp of approval for other corporate supplier diversity programs. And there's a lot more in the US than in Canada, but we work very closely with the banks, with governments, with auto industry, with technology industry, with pharma, etc. So there's a variety of industries that you can get access to, with food and beverage industry. So this is why we exist, in order for corporations to know that you are a woman-owned business, because they want more women in their supply chain. Our certification is recognized across North America as well as globally, and our WEBs are from across Canada. And as I mentioned, they are at a variety of stages. So we do have some startups, but we also do have multi-million-dollar companies that have been in existence for over 50 years. There's a big range. So even connection to that network of women-owned businesses doing business with large corporations is what we offer. Now, the good news I want to share today is that the corporations and governments are still buying. So I really want it to be heard out there in the community. So it's not business as usual. Like, the supply chains are changing rapidly and very quickly. So I'm hearing every single day around like what's new in every corporation, but corporations are still buying. The approach that you take in order to approach corporations and governments is changing. So you need to change your messaging in order to get access. But let's look at the government first. So what is government doing? So government is doing two things. First of all, they are providing funding for businesses to help the businesses survive through this crisis. And I do not have time to go through all the funding. Kayla, do you have resources at Startup Canada that can help? Okay, so because I know we pulled the information together for our businesses. So go to Kayla, go to Startup Canada, and ask them what the resources they have, or maybe they already send them to you. So how they are supporting deferred GST, HST, income tax payments, customs duty, sales tax for importers. All of that is deferred, delayed, so that you don't have to worry about it. Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. So I know that Government of Canada started at 10%. Last week they announced they are moving up to 75%, which makes me very happy, because businesses who have zero income, cannot pay 90% of wages. So they moved to 75% of the first $58,700 for employees. Canada Emergency Response Benefits. So if your business is no longer able to provide, products or services, you can actually tap into that. You didn't have to pay EI. You don't have to be eligible. You can still tap into a Canada Emergency Response Benefit. The only condition is you cannot do business while taking that money, that benefit from government. Canada Emergency Business Account is a loan of up to $40,000 available through your local bank. Loan guarantee for SMEs, EDCs backing up the loans for exporters, again available through your bank. Bank mortgage payment deferrals for up to 6 months. So if you struggle to pay your mortgage, you can actually go to your bank and they will help you defer your payments. Ontario government decided that WSIB premium payments will be deferred until the end of August. So these are all the supports in place in order for us to support small businesses. So no matter where you are, just reach out to your government, go to their government websites. If you are in BC or in Nova Scotia, find out what your government is doing. Both municipalities, provinces, as well as Canada government are taking actions and taking decisive steps, to really support businesses and help you survive through the mandatory shutdown. So I think this is very positive and very exciting. On top of that, Canada government actually temporarily removed requirements for supplier registration, verification, and security screening. If you are able to provide items like sanitizers, masks, protective gear, or ventilators, so you don't actually need to go through the regular government screening process, that is actually out of the game, which is exciting, because the government screening process is not easy to pass through. So they fast forward, like you delivering the products and services. Kyla probably has the links on her website. If not, go to webcanada.ca. We have its front page. Corporations. So when it comes to corporations, they are focused on a couple of things. So number one, they are focused on minimizing losses. So I recently had a conversation with one of the telecommunications companies, and they told me they are looking at multi-million-dollar hit because of what's happening. And I was like, really? Like, how is that even possible? Like, everybody's on their phones, everybody's using internet, right? Like, you should be like making a lot of more money. So what was explained to me is that actually phone companies, they don't make a lot of money selling the plans. They make a lot of money selling the phones and devices and modems and all of that. And all of that retail is stopped, which is hitting them in a big way. So right now they are renegotiating the deals with suppliers, trying to bring them lower, like lower their expenses. And that's what's happening in the telecommunications industry, which actually surprised me, because I was like, oh, tech companies, telecom is doing well. So on the other hand, the tech is doing really well. Like, can you imagine like Zoom and Amazon and Google, they are doing really, really well. Yeah. And then companies that depend on advertising like Twitter and Facebook, like they are looking at, oh my goodness, how do we keep those advertising money coming? And because big companies are scaling down on their investment. So like there are like what you see is not what is a reality many times, right? Like when you see that companies are doing well, they might not be doing well. We had a call last week with auto industry buyers. So our auto buyers were meeting our WEWe suppliers, and many of them were telling me, so we are shut down. Like most of our manufacturing facilities are shut down. We have one, and that one is producing ventilators. So can you imagine the impact on the supply chain in auto industry? That being said, right on that call last week, auto industry buyers with our suppliers, we were able to bring in one of the suppliers who is actually a molding company, and they are able to mold the prototypes that auto industry can use for ventilators. So that actually was instant buy on the auto industry side. Why? Because the auto industry is moving to producing ventilators. They've never done it. They need new molds. They need new prototypes, right? So they immediately engage that woman-owned business and move them into their supply chain without, long overdue. So for many companies, it will be a fast process. You will be able to get into the company faster. You just really need to figure out how you are relevant. I'll tell you another example also from last week when auto industry event. So there was one company that's been with us for years, and for years they've been trying to get into supply chain. So last week they flipped their pitch, and what they were pitching to the company was actually very specific product. And they said, we never promoted this because it wasn't ever of interest to your company. But right now, we want to let you know we have hand sanitizers. And that company was immediately, you have what? So immediate sale, right? Like that was immediately purchased, right? Because everybody's buying sanitizers. So what do you have in your toolbox as a business owner right now that can actually help businesses or government to get through the crisis? So right now, all the supply chains are in a crisis mode. They are buying necessary products and items. What do you have that can really help those businesses? So we are actually seeing a lot of headset companies, being speed up and get into banks, because banks are all working virtually, right? Like their employees are not in the buildings downtown Toronto or elsewhere. Like they are. Unless they are in the branches, right? But the headquarters, like everybody who's working from home, they need headsets, they need computers, they need equipment to work from home. So if you have items like that, it's immediate need, it's instant need, and it's instant opportunity for you to break into supply chain. So this is why I'm saying many times it takes creativity to figure out what is going to be my pitch, what am I going to sell in this time and age when there is a crisis. What can businesses potentially need from me? What can I offer? That being said, I've heard a lot of women-owned businesses tell me, Silvia, but now the companies need productivity training, they need training, how to work from home, etc. Some of the largest companies are telling me, but we already have it in place. We've been working from home for many years now. So for many companies, it's already a reality. So do your research before you pitch anything to the business out there. Don't come as clueless. Don't come as, by the way, like you most likely don't have this when they've been doing it for years. Okay, give companies some credit. They are big enough, and some of them, they know how to work from home. They know how to work on the go. They've been using technology for years now. So don't think that they are like clueless and they don't know anything. Do your research before you do your pitch. So that would be my second biggest recommendation. Do not just dump your solution on corporations. Figure out what are the conversations, what are they complaining about, what are they discussing that's like really frustrating them, and then speak into those conversations and really offer tangible solutions, and that will speed up the sales process. Okay, let me pause. Are there any questions or anything coming from the audience, Kayla?
There we go. So thanks, Silvia. Wow, lots of fantastic information. And from Startup Canada's perspective, for a quick resource guide, in the chat function, I'm listing out a number of different resources, all of the government resources that Silvia has been providing. Startup Canada has essentially a laundry list of webinars and additional support platforms with many of our partners at BDC and EDC in more of the export landscape. So all of those will continue in this chat space. So for more targeted questions, feel free to enter in the chat function. Make sure you're clicking all panelists and attendees, and we can identify a few questions here. One question from Angie Silvia: what if the offer that an organization is able to make is more a service and not a product? How do you sort of make that pitch if you're not sort of specifically talking about something in a supplier chain?
I do think, you know, what everybody needs to realize right now, everybody's in the risk assessment mode, right? Like nobody's spending extra money. So there are actually two types of products and services companies buy right now. So number one is, you know, everything that they need to survive, right? So the maintenance is still needed, right? Even though it's scaled down. Like anything that is normal is still needed, like IT support, innovations are still happening, even though they are scaled down. Then the second item they are buying is the COVID-19 related products, right? So anything related to COVID-19, like masks, protective gear, etc., like that is very hot right now. So these are two things. Everything else is considered unnecessary, and you will really need to be super convincing. You will really need to get a good buy-in in order to sell it. So from our perspective, you know, what I'm seeing a lot of businesses doing is actually shifting from selling to corporates to selling to small businesses. Small businesses are innovative and they need to start selling. So like I'm seeing a lot of productivity coaches actually training small businesses instead of training large corporations. When it comes to large corporations, who we are seeing getting business other than COVID-19 related, we are seeing IT support, we are seeing staffing companies still get business because staff is a necessity if you are open. We are seeing transitional coaching because people are being let go and they need help. So transitional coaching, you know, when people are transitioned out of their job. We are still seeing logistics services. These are very hot because the products are still being moved, even internationally. So cargo is still being moved. We are seeing speakers and coaches in a much slower scale. You know, still being hired and still being utilized. So you really need to have either a good relationship or a really good pitch in order to make it and become a new supplier. So I've been saying for years, you know, to our WEWe community, if a corporation already has somebody in your category, so for example, they have a coach or they have a trainer, in order for them to remove that trainer or remove that coach and to bring you in, it's actually a massive project for them because that coach or that trainer is already proven, they are vetted, the company understands their value, they know when to engage them, how to engage them, they understand like what they can deliver and their limitations. If they are bringing you in, all of these questions still need to be answered. Can you deliver? Will it cost me my job? Will you be safe for my employees, or will they quit after your first training? Will you be boring or will you be engaging? So all of these questions, and then, you know, will you deliver? Will you show up on time? Will you like actually provide the value that we need from you? Can you scale up, you know, to provide for our company? So these are all the questions that need to be answered. And in order for them to switch their current supplier to you or to bring you on board, you really need to convince them that you are a better solution. So your pitch will need to be nailed down. It will need to be really good. It will need to be very clear. And my personal experience is you also need to have a relationship. So it's not a short game. You either have a hot product, hot service that is going to be a game changer for the company right now, or you are in it for a long haul. You will need to build and develop those relationships. So if you are in it for a long haul and you know you don't have something that companies can buy right now, my encouragement would be offer a taste of your service for free right now, because companies are hungry for resources. They just don't have money to spend right now. So if you are a trainer or a coach and you have excellent resources for team building, working from home, etc., send those to corporate buyers and ask them to share it across their teams, across their organization. And, once all of this is over, they will remember you. They will know that you are the person who provided them with the value, and they will come back to you. You know what, now that we are buying, we really want to give it back to you, right? Like, we really want to bring you on board. We want you to work with our teams now. So don't give them everything. Still keep something, in your pocket that you can sell later, but give them a taste of the value that you can provide, something that you can give them, so that the sales process will become easier after this is over. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic, Silvia. So we have a couple of questions sort of along those lines as well, of what is sort of considered unnecessary or necessary in these moments, further to what you're sort of speaking to. So Kara has asked, we mentioned that the 70% of workers are struggling to balance family, schedules, working, productivity, and comms. Her organization provides training and tools to help workers adjust. Would you count that as sort of unnecessary sort of space right now, or is it really just in that framing of how you're offering value to relevant potential buyers of that service?
So okay, let me say it this way. If I come to the corporation, and I tell them, hey guys, like, I can help your people, to be more productive while they are at home. How appealing is that? Right? Like, there's nothing tangible. But if I come and I say, a client who use our services, productivity program, improve their work from home, productivity by 30%. So if your company right now, if your employees right now are struggling, working from home, balancing it all, we will be happy to provide you with 20% discount on this program, and we guarantee that the productivity of your employees will go up by 30%. So would you be open to have a conversation, right? So, like, what is that? What is your pitch? What is your offer? What is that tangible outcome that they are buying? So if my pitch is very generic, if there's nothing tangible for them, they will be like, well, we don't buy training right now. Well, our people are doing well. Okay, so now, you need to paint a picture of what is, and then you need to paint a picture of what it can be, and then I would even strengthen it by, imagine that this situation goes on till the end of August, like, put a dollar value on how much they are losing by lost productivity, and then paint a picture of, like, by investing, let's say, $20,000 into my program, we can actually save your company $2 million in lost productivity. Now you have their interest.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It's sort of startup 101, like these concepts. It's we're speaking in a COVID specific environment, but all of this comes down to how you start and build a thriving business. So I think using what's already in our toolbox and not thinking about this as necessarily responding to a global pandemic, but using the skills that we have already tried to develop as entrepreneurs and building businesses, making that excellent case, understanding market need, assessing the viability of your products or services. All of these things we know intellectually we need to do. So it's sort of pivoting it to identify these changing opportunities, but still, using that same toolbox.
Yeah. And I just want to say, on top of that, what we are seeing is when you have a BB certification, it actually helps to push you forward, right? So on at least 2-3 times a week, I hear from corporations reaching out to me, Silvia, who do you have in your database who provides X? Who do you have who provides Z? Because the companies who are committed to supply diversity and bringing in women-owned businesses specifically, they actually do care about it, and they do reach out. They do go through our database. So the funny story is, like, we had a bank, one of the big banks that reached out to us, and they're like, Silvia, we are looking for toilet paper. Like, who do you have? So, like, and they went to the database, and of course, you know, like, who would have thought, like, a year ago, you know, to set up toilet paper as one of the commodities they sell? Nobody, right? So we actually, as a team, we had to go back to our database, do a manual search to find out who has similar products to toilet paper, and then reach out to people to confirm that they have toilet paper screens through their website, and then go back to the bank with a list of suppliers who can provide the commodity, right? So we do those searches on a regular basis, and we do encourage our community, you know, to upgrade, you know, their profile in our database so that the commodities that are hot right now are listed. So if the company comes to me and they're looking for headsets, like, how many companies out there, IT companies, list headsets as their commodity, right? Not so many, but now the headsets are so hot. Like, I was telling you, Kayla, earlier today, my headset completely died on me, so I had no microphone. So I went frantically to Amazon, Staples, and nobody had headsets. So I actually went and I bought a headset, but it didn't have a microphone, so it was useless. So I broke my quarantine after 3 weeks of sitting at home, and I went to Staples to pick up my order, and there was no microphone on it, so it was useless. Oh. So I ordered something on Amazon, which will be delivered with my Prime membership at the end of April. So it's just crazy times, like, and corporations are struggling with the same time, right? Like, looking for headsets, looking for solutions, you know, like looking for hand sanitizers all the time. So if you have those commodities, update your website, update your profiling WEWe database, etc. Right? Let companies know, send them email. By the way, if you are looking, this is what we can provide. Like that company of ours, you know, that never thought about promoting the hand sanitizer they have. Now they led with it, and they got immediate purchase.
Yeah, and I guess for those that are providing other types of services, pivoting in that same space, that you might not have hand sanitizer, but you might have a really valuable skill set that could be used in a different way. So thinking creatively about how you can pivot all kinds of businesses and in that service space as well. So with the government services that you're seeing come out and seeing how your WEWe network is using them, what do you see as sort of the next steps? How are these resources going to be implemented within your networks, and what recommendations are you making at the moment to government to really bring what challenges your network are facing to the government space?
So in our conversation with government, you know, I do believe that we are beyond short-term solutions right now. So I do believe that government got it right. They have the right tools and the resources for entrepreneurs in place. And we are very happy that they listened and they moved from 10% to 75%, that they created 40,000, you know, like without any interest fees. You know, we are very happy that they listened and they added, you know, those solutions to the plate. But on top of it, now we are moving towards, you know, midterm and long-term solutions. So what happens if this crisis continues till August? Right? Because all the solutions right now are until like beginning of June, end of June, some of them, but nothing is like longer than that. So what if the situation continues? What if we get like second wave? What if we have to be stuck at home till August? So what then? What type of solutions do we have then? And then another conversation we are having with the government as well is what happens when we are back to normal? So what is our new normal going to be? So how are we going to ensure that women-owned businesses and SMEs actually have access to those corporate and government supply chains as the supply chains are opening up and getting going? So we are talking about, you know, encouraging supplier diversity programs. We are encouraging, like having a closer look at how the RFPs are going to be rolled out. We are talking about the conditions that will be asked, of businesses, because some of the conditions the businesses will not meet, right? Like the credit ranking will be completely depleted for many companies, right? Like if you make it a criteria, then you will disregard a lot of businesses. So we are opening up conversation about more long-term solutions. If you keep, like did you recently do business with another municipality? If that is a requirement, come on, like no SME is going to comply, So like we are already starting those conversations to make sure that as the supply chains open up again, the SMEs actually have access to them and the supply chains are ready for those and RFPs are written in the right languaging. So I know this is for a longer conversations. It's not going to be changed overnight. Government is still putting, like the short-term solutions in place. But, like slowly we do want to transition into those longer-term solutions for SME.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm seeing, so especially with Startup Canada and with WEWebinar Canada as well, with our network of people on the call today and in general, making sure that the challenges that you're facing within your context are shared with organizations like ours, that we need this valuable information. And I'm seeing in the chat, there are a couple of questions that I don't know if we can answer specifically on the phone or on our webinar today, but talking about the risk that mortgage companies have and banks and those details, we can take those questions. They might not be able to be answered here, but we can bring those within our organizations and make sure that we're getting that right information out to people. Because what we're hearing at the moment, especially within our startup community, groups that are pre-revenue, what type of services are being provided in that space. And a lot of the challenges, especially on the cash flow and finance side, we are relaying back to government. So I really encourage everybody on the webinar today to connect with these groups, with these nonprofit organizations who are here to completely support you during this unprecedented time, that we need to hear all of this feedback and have a space where we can have a conversation about it and find some solutions in conversation with government, industry, and bring that back to the entrepreneurial community. And I loved your comment, Silvia, as well, that you're really leveraging your network and identifying, okay, this might not be your regular business model, but how can we sort of pivot things to solve problems that people are coming to you to answer? And that power of community, I think, is so important right now, that we need to leverage and be connecting with each other, thinking creatively around how we can connect with each other, especially, as women entrepreneurs focused in this already challenging space, how can we support each other even further during this sort of unprecedented time?
And
so
that
we'll
being said, if I can, Kayla,
I
would just give a plug, to tomorrow's webinar that we are hosting as WEWebinar Canada. I'm actually bringing 3 of our women-owned businesses, to the call, and I would like to connect women to women, right? Because I'm in a non-profit space, so I do talk to government, I do talk to corporations, I do talk to women, but I know like having an entrepreneurial mindset is a very different challenge, right? So we are bringing women-owned businesses, 3 of them actually. One is expert in productivity, another one is in mindset work, and another one is on teamwork. And they are going to just share with other women-owned businesses how they can leverage this time and what they are doing, sharing their expertise and experiences on supporting other women-owned businesses to survive and thrive through these situations. So I just want to invite everybody who is interested. I don't know if you can send out the
link. Just posted it. There you
go.
go.
Awesome. So it's also on WEWeCanada.ca if you forget the link.
Fantastic. Great. Any final thoughts, Silvia, that you'd like to share with our network today?
I just want to say, like, no matter what you do, don't sit on a couch and in despair. Okay. So if even in your worst day, when you really feel like not doing anything, just pick up the phone and call somebody and ask, for them to pour into you and to support you and encourage you. So I actually, what became my really good friends, like, I decided to work less. During this time, we are actually, as WEWebinar Canada, I don't know about Startup Canada, it's probably very similar. We are operating at 150%. because of the amount of information we need to process in order to send it to our suppliers, like the conversations with governments and, industries. But I also decided to give myself a break and just read and listen and learn. So I've been reading like 5 books at the same time these days. So I'm reading, like about startups, like how do businesses pivot, like how do they take the idea through the struggles and, make it big. I am reading about ROI, because that is important to understand about the concepts like memberships and concepts of productivity, like how can I improve my work. And then I'm also learning about how to develop communities, because that's what I do. I engage community, right? Then what I'm doing, I'm listening to podcasts, just, like understanding, like what's happening. How can I keep myself strong as a leader, as somebody who needs to, like support all the people around me. So, and then all of that happening alongside taking care of kids and family and homeworks and all of that. So it's been fun, but I just want to tell everybody, just give yourself a break, like take time to just absorb and sit back and think about what's going on and, learn from other people and connect and, listen to podcasts, read a book, watch a TV, and turn on the comedy, not the news. We all have Netflix. Like I'm a Netflix junkie, especially on the weekends, and I just watch one brainless comedy after another. And it's so good. It's so refreshing. Then on Monday I come back to work and I'm like ready to deal with challenges of the world, right? But take that mental space, to become mentally strong so that you can keep going for the weeks to come. And don't be harsh on yourself. I know, especially as women, we can really judge ourselves and we can be our worst enemies. But, just you are doing fine. Let's just live through it. And we will never forget these times. But, nobody ever will come back to you and blame you because your house is not clean, or, the dishes weren't washed, or dinner wasn't on time, or, kids didn't do their homework on time. So just give yourself grace, like these are tough times. But you are not in it alone. We are all in it together. So don't do it alone. Reach out.
Yeah, completely agree. And I keep reminding myself, like, be gentle on yourself. Like there are so many competing priorities, and the world has completely changed. Even in the last month, Silvia and I saw each other on March 11th. We met with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on the 11th, and on the 12th, the entire world had shifted, and including his life specifically, as he moved into quarantine. So it's been incredible to see the innovation that's come out of these moments and how businesses have pivoted so quickly. But also, if you're feeling that you're feeling very overwhelmed in trying to pivot your business, be gentle on yourself in those moments as well. That this does not have to be the most productive time of your life. And, that you see all of these different comments of sort of inspiring journeys and making the most out of your time. Be gentle on yourself that this is an unprecedented, global pandemic. So we're navigating the best way that we can, but remind yourself that this is a really challenging situation. And you have so many support mechanisms to leverage, including, WEWebinar Canada, Startup Canada. We are completely here for you. So thank you, Silvia, for that fantastic chat. And we'll be sure to share tomorrow's webinar information with everyone. And then for those questions that weren't answered that might be a little bit more general, we'll try to connect back with some answers to those from some of our other partners. I also wanted to plug that we do have another webinar series. This is our first of the Women Entrepreneur Program. We have another one next Tuesday on April 7th that's specifically on funding. So the 5 W's of funding, what funding resources can you leverage, including government, looking at angel investors, VCs, all of the different funding mechanisms that are available at the moment. So that will be with Fundica. So that will be happening on April 7th. So I will share that right over here, I believe, as well. And we will have this recorded session on our website. So if you want to share it with anybody to leverage today's conversation, absolutely feel free to do so. We'll do that immediately after our session today. We also highly recommend everyone connecting through the Women Entrepreneur Program. So we're really building out this network of women entrepreneurs. We already have hundreds of people participating in this program to get targeted resources for women entrepreneurs, have targeted conversations conversations, small group conversations. We're in the process of developing a survey and distributing it out, especially for marginalized women at the moment and the effects of COVID for underrepresented founders. So we're working with the Canadian Women Chamber of Commerce to get that survey information and use that as an advocacy piece to bring to government and showcase the unique challenges that women are facing across Canada. So we'll provide that information as well. In the link below. We also have a social impact program that we have Miranda, who's another IRP partner here on the call today. But we're looking at supporting especially social entrepreneurs, social innovators in partnership with other investment readiness program community builders. So this is really recognizing, supporting, providing training and funding under the investment readiness program, recognizing social impact. So we'll provide some info there too. And stay up to date on Startup Canada's website. We have an ongoing resource list that is updated every hour or so, showcasing more resources in light of COVID-19, trying to support our entrepreneurial community. And we will be building out those programs over the coming weeks. So stay tuned. Thank you again, everybody, for participating. Thank you, Silvia, for all these fantastic thoughts and ideas and suggestions for this network of fabulous women entrepreneurs. So thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.